back to my channel. For those of you who are new, I'm not sure how you got here, but certainly I'm glad you came. And if you are new here, well, you're in for a treat. All right, if you enjoy beauty, horror, and a little bit of commentary thrown in here between, which I feel like some of y'all saw it, then I suggest you go ahead and subscribe for the low price of $0. I will tell you a random fact about myself. Today's random fact: I had a very intense crush on Jin Kazama from the Tekken games, which I used to play religiously for a very long period of time. Listen, I was kind of a gamer girl. Mbo's already up to some shit. And here are my socials, which I have been kind of taking a small duck from the socials because, wow, I am glad that you guys are showing up, but like, I'm just gonna tell you up front, I'm so overwhelmed. It's nuts. It's more than I bargained for. Okay, I'm so weird. All right, today is Terror Tuesday. Now, I really debated as to whether or not I was gonna film a Terror Tuesday because honestly, I'm in America and it's
terrible enough here.
So I really wasn't positive that I was gonna do it today because there's so much going on, but I figured why not take a break from actual terror to dive into fake terror so that we can take a moment to like not deal with it, which is why, you know, my face is not its normal super beat. It's just like, it was nice this morning, but I've taken a nap and eaten a lot of snickerdoodles because the red devil has come to roost. Anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about this movie that I have been watching. I feel like I've watched it at least every day for maybe 2 weeks because it's one of my favorite finds. I found this movie several years ago and I think it's like from 2015. I'm gonna say 2015. If I am wrong, the correct one will be here. But it's called No One Lives. Now, when I tell you that when this movie, like when the credits come up and it said WWE, I was like, bitch, please. I was, what? Like, I was legitimately just like, you guys are out of your minds. Like, WWE Studios? What? Hold. The movie opens to screaming. Okay? It's black. The first screen's black, and then you hear, ah! Ah! And you're like, what the hell? And then you see it. Blonde girl running for her life. White pajamas. Well, tank top and underwear, but she's running. She's like, ah, help me! In the forest. Of course she's in the forest. And she's running and she's running. And then she steps on some glass and you're like, oh no, it's over for her. But like a true warrior, she is like not having it. I don't know who's chasing her and I don't know what's chasing her, but I know she's very upset. She yanks that glass out of her foot, doesn't scream, puts her hand over her mouth so that whoever's chasing her doesn't hear her. Smart girl, smart girl. So anyway, she does that, immediately takes that piece of glass that was in her foot, cuts a piece of her shirt, wraps it around her foot and keeps fucking going. You know why? Because this bitch is gonna survive. So anyway, she is running and then she keeps running and then you see it. She's close to the freeway and she's like, oh my God, I'm gonna make it. And she runs and she's like, ah! And then whoosh, there is a rope trap. Snatches her up by her ankles. And she's just like, no, 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 no. And she's still screaming, she's still screaming, she's still screaming. And then you see her, like, with that piece of glass, grab a hold of the tree. As she's swinging, and she grabs a hold of this tree and she starts carving into it. And then it's like black screen. And then it comes back and it says, Emma alive. That's just the beginning of the movie. Are you sucked in yet? I feel like you might be. So, now we cut to a couple, all right? One of them played by the dashing, oh so handsome, debonair Luke Evans. We're gonna call him Luke this entire review or retelling or whatever. Listen, that man makes me wanna leave the one I'm with and start a new relationship. I couldn't help it. Anyway, he's so fine. And he is in the car, they're a lovely brunette couple, and they're talking about having to move. Like they're driving, and he's like, well, it's always fun to start in a new place. Brunette, girlfriend, wife, we're not exactly sure, but she's like, well, don't act like this isn't your fault. And you're like, oh, Oh, and we're starting to get the indication that there's trouble in couple paradise. So they end up stopping at a hotel because he's like, I'm tired. The key thing about them stopping at this hotel, and please pay attention to this, are you paying attention? Because when he goes in to get the room, the hotel attendant guy says, that's an unusual name. And then he's like, oh, I come from my father. He just like says all this stuff, but you never find out the name. He never says his name. And you're like, this is a key later, okay? Okay. So, they're sitting there and they're like, let's go get something. I can't decide if they make love before or after, but there's some love making. But essentially, he's like, it's not about her. I don't love her more than you. And you're like, oh my God, he did cheat. Anyhow, they're at the hotel. We're gonna cut over to some ne'er-do-wells. Ne'er-do-wells are robbing this house, and you see them. They're like grabbing all the shit. They're like, yeah, 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 ne'er-do-well style. Anyhow, you see a car coming up with a family. It's a mom, a dad, and a son and a daughter. Of course, there's 4 of them. There's a super ne'er-do-well and like a mini, like out of control ne'er-do-well. I feel like there's 4 of these ne'er-do-wells, perhaps 5. Who knows and who cares? Anyway, head ne'er-do-well, who is played by that fellow who is often played, he always plays a bad guy, and I'll have his name here, but he always plays a bad guy. He's got red hair. He was in Oz. He was in that relationship with the guy who was the cop in SVU before he left, and I'll put his name here because that's really not helping you. Like the guy who was the cop in SVU. SVU is full of cops. Anyhow, head ne'er-do-well's like, let me handle this. And then they're like, okay, but reckless ne'er-do-well, that's what we're gonna call him. Reckless ne'er-do-well is like, I mean, I can, and he's like, I'm head ne'er-do-well, let me handle up on this. So he tries to kind of like negotiate with the family people, but like the family people are already like nervous because these ne'er-do-wells look ne'er-do-welly. They like don't look like good people. And he's all like, hand me the phone. And then reckless ne'er-do-well, pow, pow, just start shooting people. Like, reckless ne'er-do-well living up to his name. Anyhow, head ne'er-do-well is pissed because now they have to kill the whole family, and they've done so, and now they have to hide everything. And they're like, I thought you said that they were out of town. He's like, I said they might be out of town. Whatever. Anyhow, head ne'er-do-well pissed the fuck off because he's like, look, reckless ne'er-do-well, I done told you, I run this shit. So we end up knowing that whole scene is really for us to know the ne'er-do-wells. Who cares what happens after that? I don't necessarily remember. Moving on. The couple is now like, hey, we're hungry. Where do we eat? To the attendant, the hotel attendant. He's like, you go up to the shitty restaurant. That's not what he calls it, but he's like, it's got a great steak or Salisbury steak. I don't know if it's actually steak. Is Salisbury steak steak? I don't eat red meat. Somebody tell me. Anyway, they go and they're at the restaurant and they're just like sitting there eating and talking, and you know, just kind of, it looks a little bit like they're just like enjoying their like love with it, and like the fact that he's a cheater is like passing, and she's just enjoying her time with her mans. But who should be there but the ne'er-do-wells? The ne'er-do-wells are there. Okay, so ne'er-do-wells in place. You see, okay. Obviously, reckless ne'er-do-well has some fucking problems because he goes over and just starts being like rude to the couple, and Luke Evans is just like looking at this dude unbothered, which should be an indication for all of us watching this film that this might be problematic, because as they're like ne'er-do-welling, as reckless ne'er-do-well is ne'er-do-welling, you see Luke Evans like grip his fork while he's eating, just grips the fork, and then girlfriend's like, babe, and like puts her hand down, you know. And then head ne'er-do-well comes over, grabs reckless ne'er-do-well, and he's just like, reckless ne'er-do-well, one more fuck up from you, dude, one more, but like in like hushed undertones, you know. But it's like, then the couple is paying to leave, and Luke Evans is like got a lot of money apparently, and of course reckless ne'er-do-well is like, bro, but they have money, they are good marks, let's do this thing. Give my regards to Broadway. That does not fit necessarily, but maybe it does. So anyway, I completely forgot one important detail. While the couple was in their hotel room, you see a news story talking about a missing girl. What? I can't remember her name, but I can hear my fucking neighbors. Anyway, her name is Emma. Duh. She comes from a very wealthy family, and they were like talking about the tree carving that they found where it says Emma alive. And they were like, it says Emma alive. This was found roughly, like we've been able to calculate that it was carved here roughly 6 months ago when she was alive. We have hope. And then this is when brunette girlfriend says, well, at least she has hope. Can you imagine what she's going through? And then he's like, there's always hope. That's Luke Evans, the he. Anyway, back to the restaurant, back to the couple leaving the restaurant, and they're like on their way back to the hotel. You think they're gonna hanky panky. And what should happen on the ride home? Bam! Driver's side window busted open by a ne'er-do-well on a motorcycle. Obviously, the ne'er-do-wells. Luke Evans swerves, crashes the vehicle, and we're like, oh no, the ne'er-do-wells have got this like sweet couple who are trying to work through their fucking relationship problems. So, we are now cutting into the some kind of a gas station or like something like that. It's like a garage area where Luke Evans is kind of like waking up. He's tied to handcuffed to a chair, and you see him like, you know, getting himself undone. Now we have mountainous ne'er-do-well, and I'm gonna call him mountainous because he's like not only tall but like wide. He's wide and tall like a mountain. So mountainous ne'er-do-well is there, and he is the one keeping, you know, an eye on shit there, you know what I mean? Because like, of course you leave mountainous ne'er-do-well by himself. Who is gonna fuck with mountainous ne'er-do-well? Nobody. So anyhow, you see that he is like got them tied up, and Luke Evans is like looking at his girl being like, I'm gonna get you out of this, babe, like it's gonna be cool, you know what I'm saying? And she's like, yay. And then Luke Evans gets loose. He manages to undo his handcuffs and is like, brah! And then mountainous ne'er-do-well puts a knife to girlfriend's throat, you know? And he's like, easy there, cowboy, or whatever he says. Ne'er-do-wells always call people a cowboy. I don't know why. You know, the hero, there was like, easy there, cowboy. And like, so Luke Evans is just kind of standing there, like kind of figuring out, you know, you can see the wheels turning in his head. And then shocking shit. Prepare yourselves. Girlfriend looks Luke Evans directly in the eye and goes, I'm sorry. And then pushes herself forward on the knife and damn near cuts her own head off. Mountainous ne'er-do-well has the same thought we all have as we are watching it, which is, what the fuck? And we're all nervous. And then Luke Evans is like pissed. He's like, oh my God. And he goes over there, tries to check on his girl. And then big guy is all like, oh, let's fight, and throws the knife or whatever. And Luke Evans throws the knife to the ground to the big guy. To mountainous ne'er-do-well. Throws the knife to him. I now have a feeling that there's more than meets the eye. Much like the Transformers. Anyhow, Mountainous tries to fight Luke Evans, does not work out, because Luke Evans goes and uses like the one part of the handcuff that's off with the little twirly squirt and just hooks him under the fucking right in the soft spots. I know, Bo. It's really freaking everybody out. Anyway, hooks him in the soft spot. Mountainous ne'er-do-well goes down. Boofed. Fucking done. And as he's like gasping for his last breath, do you know what Luke Evans says? Haven't you guys ever heard of zip ties? Marinate on that for a second. Seems like Luke Evans knows his way around some handcuffs. I'm starting to get a little nervous. are you? Now we're going to the ne'er-do-well hangout, where reckless ne'er-do-well is like getting all excited about the stuff that they found. They had a Mercedes, but you know what's in that Mercedes trunk? Emma. Emma's in that fucking trunk. Listen. The her was Emma. Brown-haired girlfriend knew about her? Yes. Anyway, she's running and she's screaming, and they get her in the house and they're like, what the fuck? And she's like, oh my God, call the police. And they're like, obviously ne'er-do-wells, and they're like, we're not calling any fucking police. And she's like, call the police. And they're like, where is he? Where is he? And they're like, where is who? She's like, the dude who was driving the car. And they're like, what's his name? And she goes, he has no name. She is freaking out. And they're like, whatever. Mountainous ne'er-do-well has him in hand. She's like, Mountainous ne'er-do-well is dead. And they're like, how do you know? She's like, call them. Call them. She doesn't have that much attitude because she is kind of waspy, but still, I'm just telling you. She's like, call. So they call. No answer. Hang up, call. No answer. Hang up, call. No answer. Now, head ne'er-do-well is like, you guys gotta go over there. So he sends stupid ne'er-do-well who's not actually like in the club, but like they're like a bike club or like a murder club. I don't know what kind of club they are. But it's stupid ne'er-do-well is trying to be a part of it. Basically, he's given the juice to head ne'er-do-well's daughter. So like that's the only reason he's allowed to hang out. So he's like, listen, stupid ne'er-do-well, go over there, check shit out. And stupid ne'er-do-well's like, right. So he goes out, he gets in the car, takes off with daughter, who's pretty skanky. So they leave and they're in the house. We're gonna go back to the station or whatever. So they go in there. They find the head of the girlfriend, and it's like, what the fuck happened here? And then they fall like stupid ne'er-do-well, slips and falls on all the blood from Mountainous ne'er-do-well. Freaky shit. Shit is getting weird. And then they're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to get, like, this is fucked. We're gonna have to get back. Like, where is the bad guy? Like, where is Luke? Where is Luke Evans? They don't know. He's nowhere to be found. So they struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle and finally get Mountainous ne'er-do-well in the truck because, you know, they gotta take him back to be buried, right? Buried. Listen, I'm trying to say the word the way you guys say it. How do you say it? I say buried. Do you say buried? Let me know in the comments and like phonetically spell it out. It's buried. Moving on. Whew. I know, Audra, you seem sweaty and out of breath. That's because I am. Also, I've changed. Why? I took a shower. I forgot to tell you guys, I'm telling you this story in 3 acts. The first act was, you know, more put together. Now, second act, I've had a shower and my face is doing this. We're moving on. All right. So now we flash to a news story, and it like they're in the ne'er-do-wells lair, and a news story comes up on the TV because the ne'er-do-wells are like trying to figure out what the deal is with this Emma, and she's doing her whole thing. So the news comes up and it's like, Emma Ward is, you know, blah, blah, blah. They show all of these horrifying images. Wait, hold on. That's better. They show all of these horrifying images of like all these dead bodies in a sorority house. Luke seems to have handled up on everybody in that sorority house except, you guessed it, Emma. There's a $2 million reward because she's like Richie or something. I don't really care what the news said. I don't know. They said something about her being like, I don't know what her parents do, but they have $2 million to save her life. Anyhow, now the ne'er-do-wells are like, oh snap, payday bitches. So they're very excited and they're like, we can get a payday out of this. And then head ne'er-do-well is like, yeah, but old dude kidnapped her. So it's not like he's just gonna let this shit fly. We got to find him. Anyhow, in the meantime, and I got this wrong, it wasn't ne'er-do-well's daughter and stupid ne'er-do-well that left. It was stupid ne'er-do-well with lady ne'er-do-well. because there's a lady in the mix. Who cares why, but she's there. So they return from getting mountainous ne'er-do-well and bringing his body, and it's like, oh my God. And they're like, who did this? And they aren't, but head ne'er-do-well, it says, who did this to stupid and lady ne'er-do-well? And they're like, I think it was old Dode. And then head ne'er-do-well's like, we've got to fucking, take care of this. So he goes out into the van, closes the eyes of mountainous ne'er-do-well, and is like, get him in the shed. We're gonna avenge his death. So now, Reckless and Stupid take the body into the shed, and they're like, why do we always have to carry the heavy motherfucker? Ugh. And then, we gotta bury him. And of course, Reckless ne'er-do-well is like, I'm not digging that hole, which, to be fair, I wouldn't want to either. Anyway, they leave. Like after they put a tarp on top of him. I don't know why, but they did. Put a tarp on the body. They leave. All you see is Mountainous' body with a tarp on top. And then suddenly, the tarp is moving. What for? Oh, right. This is where shit gets real. Suddenly, the tarp flings open. The dead body of Mountainous goes, whoa, with the handcuffs still hanging out of his chin. Remember when I said there was a whole lot of blood? And maybe I didn't tell you there was a whole lot of blood, but there was a whole lot of blood. It seemed an unreasonable amount of blood, and here's why. Luke Evans is inside the body, wearing it like a fucking suit, and he comes out of it from the back side and goes, with the hair. Now I'm gonna put my hair back. He is dripping in blood, and it is terrifying, because you and I both know that someone willing to put themselves in the body of another body, I don't even know if that sentence made sense, but I was disturbed. So now, Emma, realizing that these fools are trying to cash in on her, she's like, I gotta get the hell out of here before Luke comes back. So she's trying to leave, and she's putting up quite a kerfluffle. And you know what? She can really fight. She's doing these maneuvers and these cha-cha-cha maneuvers, and you're like, whoa, Emma's pretty boss. But they're all like, don't go. And then head ne'er-do-well, gun on her. And he's like, if you move, I'm gonna shoot you. And she was just about to leave, but she looks out the window, and you know what she sees? Bloody Luke standing out in the woods. And she's like, you know what, I'll stay. My last hope of escape is while he's killing the rest of you guys. So she goes back in. These ne'er-do-wells are dumb, because they have still not really gotten it together that it seems odd that their victim is fairly calm, but also extremely sure they're all going to die. So now we've realized these ne'er-do-wells aren't that smart. Do you know what happens? Head ne'er-do-well goes out the front door like some kind of idiot. And you know what happens to him? Arrow through his shoulder. He just gets pulled off on a zip cord of some form. I don't really know. Suddenly bow arrows are flying through the air, and Lady Ne'er-do-well and Reckless Ne'er-do-well are firing shots off, and they're like, what's happening? Do you see him? I don't know. And they're just firing willy-nilly as ne'er-do-wells do. And then you can see Luke is sneaking over, and he gets kind of behind this tree, and then he goes whoosh, and then sets off, bakoosh, the van blows up. Reckless Ne'er-do-well and Lady Ne'er-do-well back into the house. Also in the kerfluffle, Stupid Ne'er-do-well has been shot by a shotgun because Luke set up a bunch of traps. I forgot to tell you that, but he set up a lot of traps. Of course he did. Anyway, now Reckless Ne'er-do-well is looking at Emma, and he's like, what the hell's going on? What is he doing? And she's like,
he's trapping us.
Now, cut to some other part of the land and farm or whatever. Presumably where nobody can hear a giant clippy type machine that I think this is the maneuver that the machine makes. But it's crossy. Anyway, there's a crossy machine that does something at farms. I don't know about farms, but they're sharp. And he's now got, Luke has head ne'er-do-well, hanging by his feet, head first into the... All right, so Basically, Luke starts asking head ne'er-do-well all of the stuff. And at first, head ne'er-do-well is trying to play it fucking cool up until he has dipped into that thing. Yeah, I said it. He dips in. And when he comes up, he's a little, and part of his ear is like hanging off, which actually makes my booty tremble a little bit because that's really gross. And I'm sorry that I told you that. Moving on. So anyway, Luke reaches up and goes pluck and plucks off the rest of his ear. No. Now head ne'er-do-well is ready to talk, and he's like, I can help you. I can give you what you want. This is where Luke is like, oh, you can give me what I want? Can you turn back time? I'm so sorry I'm laughing because there was something about him saying it. Now, I am going to tell you that the acting in this movie is a little bit over the top. Not necessarily like top tier acting, but it's still a good film and a little gruesome. I forgot to tell you that. Anyway, Luke then says, you know what I hate about the common criminal? They're so mediocre. So then he looks at head ne'er-do-well and Luke is like, who am I? And head ne'er-do-well goes, I don't know, a serial killer or something? Ha ha. Luke says, no. I am not a serial killer. Serial killers deal in singularities, and my bag is numbers. I'm a psychopath. Listen, the self-awareness here is great, you know? It's fantastic. At this point, Luke has decided to end head ne'er-do-well. I know you weren't expecting that to happen so quick, but he dumps him into the machine and it's over for him. Listen, I also forgot to tell you a very important thing. When those two came back, Lady Ne'er-do-well and Stupid Ne'er-do-well, to tell head ne'er-do-well and the rest of the ne'er-do-well clan, like, hey, Mountainous Ne'er-do-well is dead. She then says, hey, Emma says, where's Betty, I guess is her name. It was the brunette's name. Luke's girlfriend, wife, whatever. And they're like, she's dead. And she goes, oh no, he would never do that to her. This is important. That means, oh no. And she's frightened. All righty then. All right, we are now into Act 3. Prepare yourselves. So it cuts to the past and you see Emma in like this room and Luke starts going on about like how she can only get out if, you know, he lets her out. Something to the effect of the only thing that stands between her and escaping is him, and if he dies, like a bunch of creepy things are gonna happen to her. Then he starts launching into some shit about the arterial vein, and that if it's sliced, you only have like 10 minutes to save the other person. And Emma is like against the wall, like, why are you telling me this? And he's like, because, you know, you have a choice. And then he slices his own fucking neck. Listen, he does. But he did give her all the info on how to save him. What? Now we go into the present. Present Emma is looking out the window. She sees Luke. Again, says nothing to her captors. These are the people who could save her. She says nothing. He's standing out there and he goes like this and caresses the spot where he, like, you know, cut himself, and she saved him. And so when it goes back to the past and you're like, he is like laying there and then he like wakes up and he's like, you saved me, Emma. Why, you know, you didn't have to do that. Why'd you do that? She's like, because you have the key. And he was like, what key? And then he gets up, he just goes, opens the fucking door. This is the past, by the way, and says, the only one keeping you here was you. What? Okay, anyway, now. So present Emma is there and she is with, I believe, Lady Ne'er-do-well, and Lady Ne'er-do-well, no, you know what? I think it's Daughter Ne'er-do-well. It is Daughter Ne'er-do-well. And no, Daughter Ne'er-do-well is like, why didn't he kill you? And, Emma pulls up her shirt, shows this little scar, and says, I think he was trying to create me. Now we're gonna flash all the way back to the beginning where Luke is making love to apparently the brown-haired girl's name that he was with at the beginning of this movie. Her name is Betty. Same scar. And she seemed to have zero fear of Luke. Okay, keep that. keep that. So, anyway, at some point, okay. Anyway, a cat fight somehow ensues between Lady Ne'er-do-well and daughter Ne'er-do-well about daddy Ne'er-do-well, and they're like fucking kicking and fighting and slapping and calling each other bitches, you know, as cat fights go. And then you start hearing like a thump, like Reckless gets up and he's like, that's enough, and then you hear like thunk at the door, and he's like, someone's at the door. That's Reckless, someone's at the door, all right? And they're like, ugh, and everybody kind of crowds up to the door, and they're like, oh, what is it? Daughter Ne'er-do-well is like, listen, I'm just gonna go look. So she looks through the peephole, and they're like, what is it? And she's like, it's a bag. All right. And they're like, a bag. So Reckless goes up to the front and he's like, whatever. And then he goes to open the door. Of course, Lady is like, don't open the door. And Shot Stupid is down there like, whatever's in the bag is bad. He's not wrong, because they open the door, and when the door opens, it's like the bag is spinning, and on the bag is a ring. And daughter Ne'er-do-well says, that's my dad's ring. Reckless gets mad, kicks the bag, it explodes, bloods and bone just all over the porch. So gross. It's not just her dad's ring, it's her dad. In all the chaos, Emma is eerily calm, just kind of like looking at everything, and kind of has like a little bit of what I detect to be like a little bit of a grin at seeing like head Ne'er-do-well all and now they realize that the only hope of the escape is like getting this old Jeep that hasn't run in like a year. So Stupid and daughter go off and they get the Jeep. They're like, Reckless does say, you know, he probably has this place rigged, right? And they're like, whatever, it's our only chance. So they get out there, they're trying to get the Jeep started, and he has to get out of the Jeep and like pop the hood, you know? And he pops the hood, trying to get it to start, and then it finally starts, and daughter's like, yeah, let's go. Are you coming? Of course he's not coming. Luke has fucked him up, like put his head in the thing, and that's what got it started, to be honest. Just so now he's just basically like, he's dead. He's just basically dead. He's not dead, but he's basically dead. He should, by all accounts, be dead at this point, but he is alive. And somehow daughter has gotten stabbed or something in like the titty, and she's like laying on the ground like, what did we even do to you? We're not bad people. And Luke's like, I guess you're just at the wrong place. And like proceeds to leave because he notices a detection saying, you guessed it, the Jeep is on the move. This man has everything covered. He has a tracking device on it. So now you have Reckless, Lady, and still somehow Stupid is making it. He's in the back just because like, I mean, his face has been jacked up and the motor, he's been shot. He is not doing well. They go back to the hotel where, you guessed it, Luke and his former girlfriend, now dead, beheaded, are like, had stayed. And guess what? Reckless is not called Reckless for a reason, because he pays for the room with Luke's credit card. And the hotel manager says the same thing he said the last time. Interesting name. So Reckless takes off to go to the room 3, and of course the hotel manager is like, Sheriff? So anyway, they're in the hotel room, and he's all excited. Reckless is very excited about being able to like cash in on Emma, and he's got a gun to her and all, and he's like trying to lay down next to her, and she's like, I gotta pee. So she gets up, she goes into the bathroom. The bathroom is where Lady is currently taking a shower. Lady's like, yo, you want this gun? And Emma's like, why would you give me the gun now? And Lady's like, because I'm probably not gonna be able to pull the trigger, but I bet you will, because you're different. This is important. Anyway, Emma's like, what's gonna prevent me from shooting you? And they don't. She's like, I'll blow his head off. So anyway, they're done fighting. Reckless grabs Emma, pulls her into the bedroom, but just as they're about to like, you know, he's probably gonna do something awful, but there's a knock on the door. Sheriff! So he opens the door, of course has the gun on the side. I don't know how they do this in all the movies because I could never have that kind of coordination. But he has the gun on the side and the sheriff is just like, seems to be a case of mistaken identity. Let me see your ID and everything will be chill. Now Emma is now grabbing for the gun that she has in her back, her back pants. I don't know what that thing is called. Anyway, she's got it there in her pants, and she's reaching for it thinking like, yes, it's my time. Like I'm gonna get rescued. This is amazing. But you know what? Reckless ain't called reckless for no reason. Bam! Shoots that cop right, shooting dead in the eye. He goes down and he grabs, they're like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. They go to get Lady. Guess what? Lady has been jacked up by Luke, okay? Like she is like hanging up there, titties out, lady bits covered. She is artfully posed. She goes, Reckless freaks out, shoots her in the head. He's like, we've got to go. So he grabs Emma, they run out of the hotel room. Emma's like, I've got a fucking chance to kind of escape. Just as she kind of moves out of the way, boom! Reckless gets run the fuck over by Luke in the cop car. Now the time has come. Face to face. Emma and Luke are squaring off. She looks at him. She finally grabs the gun from her back thing. And she's shooting, of course, terribly. She's a horrible shot. Manages to shoot Luke, not at all. And he goes for her. He's grabbing and trying to get Emma. Emma and Luke have this really intense battle. Like you wouldn't believe. But guess what happens? Reckless gets up, bam! Shotgun blast at Luke. But guess what? Luke is no punk bitch, and he has on some kind of intense armor. Now it is Reckless versus Luke. This is a super battle between two psychopaths, I guess, and they're battling out. And it's a huge fight. Anyway, just as you think that Reckless is gonna get one over on Luke, whap with the shovel, Emma comes in strong, taking out Reckless. And you know what Luke says? He says, well, I wasn't expecting that. And she's like, oh, what? And let him take the honor of killing you? And then he's like, if you wanted to kill me, you would have already killed me. And she's like, I'm gonna. Anyway, he's walking towards her. And he's like, I don't really know what's going on, but they're having some kind of verbal tete-a-tete about who made who and what the fuck's happening and whatever. She tries to shoot him. She pulls the trigger. Nothing happens. And that's when Luke says, college girls, it's called double pump action for a reason. Snatches the shotgun from her, flips it around, like he goes, flips it, bam! But he doesn't shoot her, he shoots right by her ear, and by all accounts, she should really be deaf, but she's not. My eyes are falling asleep, but I'm still awake because I'm not going to bed until I finish telling you this story. So anyway, he moves in close and is basically telling her that, she's his and all of this good stuff. He's very romantic. And then he cuts her belly and pulls out a tracking device. Okay? He tells her to breathe and he's like, he's got one of those shooting knives that shoot out from your hands, which I would really kind of like to have one of those. I used to have quite a few knives. We're not gonna talk about that. Anyway, she is now laying on the ground, breathing hard because, he did have to cut her open and take out a tracking device. And Luke walks over and he looks at her and he's like, it's time to set you free. And he walks over to Reckless, he's leaving Emma just there to live, walks over to Reckless and he's like, ugh, and goes down, grabs the wallet. Here's a ruckus. It's the hotel manager. He looks at the hotel manager and goes, hey, I think this guy stole my wallet. And then he looks at Luke, who's not moving at all, and says, stop, thief. Blam! Blows up his whole head. Splatters everywhere. Super gross. Then he looks at the hotel manager and says, the unfortunate penalty of knowing my name. Poof! And that's the end of the hotel manager. You don't actually see him get shot because he's not a bad guy, so he has the dignity of dying off camera. Now we are moving into the future. All right. Emma was just lying there on the ground, and now you see a doctor walking into a hospital room, and you're like, oh, you know who's in the hospital room? Dang old stupid. His head is wrapped up, and you're like, well, he made it at the very least. No, Luke comes in. It's Luke. It is Luke. He's got a clipboard. And there's no polite way to put this, but he just goes right into the neck with the end of the clipboard, then whispers in Stupid's ear, "No one lives." Title of the movie. In the movie. Exciting. So Luke takes off his hospital gown, like his hospital, it's not a gown. What am I, an idiot? Luke takes off the hospital coat, the doctor coat, which we all know in real life, you can't just be walking in a hospital, putting on a coat and just be like, I'm a doctor. I don't think it works that way. Pretty sure it doesn't. Anyhow, takes it off, throws it in the trash. He's walking out of the hospital. Self-satisfied. Fine as fuck also. And now Emma is pulling up in an ambulance. We're gonna call it an ambulance because this is the kind of story I'm telling today. Anyway, she pulls up in the ambulance and like all the news are there. They're like, Emma Ward, who was kidnapped, is now here. Blah, 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 blah. News people everywhere. But she's being pulled out, and as her gurney is being pulled by Luke, he gently goes like this to her hand. She knows it's him. And he's still walking, self-satisfied. And do you know why? I'm also still doing that weird walk because he's still doing it. He's walking like this because he knows Emma's going to go find him. Just like Betty did. And that, my friends, is No One Lives. This, listen, the acting, not top notch, but the story is. It is. It's a really good tale. It's almost really a love story of psychopathic proportions, but still a love story nonetheless. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys were able to take your minds off of the world for just like 30, 45 minutes, however long I make this ridiculous video. And I hope you enjoyed the 3 acts of it. The start and the middle and the finish. All right, guys, thank you to my patrons. You guys are fabulous. You're wonderful. And I appreciate every last one of you. And until next time, you guys be safe out there. Wear your masks. Please, it's really not that hard. Also remember that it costs $0 to be kind to somebody. It's like 0 money out of your pocket to be kind. And until next time, deuces!